There is a quiet truth that most people overlook in the pursuit of connection, attraction, and emotional influence. Presence speaks louder than performance. In a world where so many individuals exhaust themselves trying to be impressive, trying to be unforgettable, trying to be noticed, the deepest impact does not come from effort. It comes from the energy you bring into a space, the unspoken aura that follows you, the emotional stillness or strength that someone feels when they stand near you. Performance is loud. Presence is powerful. One fades when the moment passes, the other lingers long after you walk away. To understand this, you must first observe how human attention works. When someone is performing, they are trying to convince the world of who they are. Their focus is outward, desperate for validation, approval, or reaction. Their energy leaks outward in many directions, scattered and unstable. But presence is the opposite. Presence is inwardly rooted, anchored in self-awareness and calmness. When you are present, you do not seek to be seen. You simply ease and that state of being draws others toward you without any force. Think of the times you have encountered someone who did not need to speak loudly, act dramatically, or show off their achievements. Yet you felt them deeply. You remembered them. You sensed something grounded, something steady, something rare. That is the power of presence. It does not demand attention, it commands attention. Not through pressure, but through resonance. When someone is truly present, others feel more present around them. Their awareness sharpens. Their emotions soften. Their mind becomes curious. Presence creates a noticeable shift in the atmosphere. This is why presence becomes unforgettable in relationships. When you are fully present with someone, they experience a version of themselves that is more open, more alive, more connected. People do not remember you because of the perfect words you said or the impressive behavior you displayed. They remember how they felt when you were with them. Presence heightens emotion. Performance distracts from it. In the context of wanting someone to think about you, presence is far more effective than effort. Performance tries to convince someone, I am worthy of your attention. Presence allows them to feel, I cannot stop thinking about you. Performance works on the mind. Presence resonates in the body. The body remembers more deeply than the mind, and emotional memory lasts longer than intellectual memory. To cultivate presence, you must begin with stillness. Not the stillness of inactivity, but the stillness of attention. When you speak with someone, give them your full awareness. When you listen, listen without planning your response. When you look at them, look without analyzing. When you sit with them, let your nervous system settle, let your breathing slow, let your energy become open but grounded. Presence is not something you create, it is something you uncover by removing distractions. Presence also requires authenticity. Performance is born from insecurity, a desire to be more, to prove more. Presence comes from self-acceptance. When you are connected to yourself, others feel safe to connect to you. When you are at ease within, others feel at ease around you. Authenticity is a quiet magnet. You do not need to exaggerate, explain, or decorate yourself. The simplicity of being real becomes a powerful force. To be present means your attention is not split. Many people spend time with someone but are mentally elsewhere, thinking of what to say next, worrying about how they appear, trying to manage impressions. This creates emotional static. But when you are fully in the moment, your energy becomes clear, your intention becomes pure, and your presence becomes full. This fullness is what makes someone think of you later. They do not remember what you tried to be, they remember who you were with them in that moment. Presence also communicates confidence, but not the loud, external confidence that relies on display. It is the quiet confidence of someone who is not rushed, not desperate, not trying to be chosen. When you move slowly, speak intentionally, breathe deeply, and stay grounded, you give off an aura of stability. Stability is rare. People cling to what is rare. A grounded presence becomes a safe emotional space for others, and safety is unforgettable. Another aspect of presence is emotional containment. When you do not leak your emotions everywhere, through over-explaining, oversharing, overreacting, you create a sense of mystery. Not the artificial kind, but a natural mystery that comes from inner depth. Performance reveals too much too quickly. Presence reveals only what is necessary. And the less you reveal, the more someone leans in. Presence invites curiosity, and curiosity is the beginning of attachment. Presence also shifts the dynamic of attraction. When you are present, you communicate, I am here, but I am not trying to be owned. I am available, but not trying to be consumed. This balance of openness and self-possession creates an irresistible tension. People think about what they cannot fully grasp. They chase what they cannot fully define. Presence gives enough to connect, but not so much that the other person stops wondering. In truth, presence is a form of spiritual discipline. It requires self-control, emotional awareness, and patience. It is easier to perform than to be present. Performance is rehearsed. Presence is raw. Performance seeks applause. Presence invites connection. Performance tries to shape perception. Presence allows the truth to speak for itself. When you cultivate presence, you influence others without needing to push, pull, or persuade. Your energy becomes a silent message, and people feel that message long after you leave the room. Presence creates an imprint. Performance creates a moment. Presence builds connection. Performance builds pressure. Presence is felt. Performance is observed. Presence lingers in the heart. Performance fades from memory. And so the mastery lies not in trying to be impressive, but in learning to simply be fully here, fully grounded, and fully yourself. There is a profound power in stillness that few truly understand. In a world obsessed with noise, activity, and constant stimulation, the one who can embody stillness becomes magnetic without effort. Stillness is not emptiness, it is fullness in its most concentrated form. It is the quiet depth beneath the surface that draws others in, the energy that speaks without words, the presence that imprints itself upon hearts and minds long after it is encountered. To create magnetic influence through stillness, one must first understand the subtle mechanics of attention, emotion, and energy in human connection. Most people believe influence comes from action, from the speed of movement, from the volume of speech, or from the quantity of achievements displayed. They think they must perform, persuade, or push to leave an impact. But influence born of stillness is entirely different. It does not compete, it does not force, it does not seek approval. Instead, it creates a space into which others naturally enter. When you are still, others instinctively slow down, become aware of themselves, and feel drawn toward the calm certainty that your stillness embodies. This is magnetic influence, a force that attracts attention and thought, not because of effort, but because of presence, clarity, and centered energy. Stillness is a reflection of self-mastery. To sit or stand calmly without urgency requires that you have learned to regulate your mind, your emotions, and your energy. The restless mind seeks distraction, yet when one cultivates stillness, the mind becomes an anchor rather than a storm. This stability is inherently attractive. People are drawn to it because it promises a refuge from chaos. They return mentally and emotionally to the person who can remain composed when the world around them is in motion. They think about them, imagine them, and long for that calm they sense whenever they are near them. The magnetic quality of stillness lies also in its subtlety. It does not shout or demand attention, yet it shapes the environment in invisible ways. When you are fully present in stillness, your energy communicates something unspoken. I am grounded, I am complete, I am centered. Others feel this energy and respond on a subconscious level. They do not necessarily understand why they are drawn in, but they are. In contrast, performance is noticeable, often overbearing, and quickly forgotten because it depends on external validation rather than internal depth. Stillness, by contrast, creates a quiet resonance that lingers in the memory. Breath is central to stillness. When your breathing is calm, deep, and measured, it signals to your nervous system that there is safety, balance, and control. Your entire body becomes a vessel of centered energy. The more anchored your body is, the more your presence becomes magnetic. People may not articulate why they are compelled to return to your energy, but their bodies remember the sensation of being in proximity to calmness, and the mind follows the body. The influence of stillness is therefore felt before it is understood, and it persists long after interaction. Stillness is also a form of listening. To truly remain still is to fully inhabit the moment, to absorb every nuance of energy, word, and intention around you without the need to respond immediately. When someone senses that they are fully heard, not judged, not interrupted, their emotional field opens. They are more likely to reflect on you, to carry thoughts of you into their solitude, to return to your presence mentally because they experienced a rare clarity and attention that others seldom provide. This is the subtle alchemy of magnetic influence. It is not performed, it is felt. Another aspect of stillness is the cultivation of mystery. People are fascinated by that which is not constantly expressed, by that which does not reveal itself completely in every moment. When you maintain stillness, you allow space for imagination, curiosity, and emotional engagement. You create tension not through drama, but through quiet depth. That tension is magnetic because it invites others to explore, to consider, and to dwell in your energy, creating a mental imprint that is stronger than any spoken word. Stillness also teaches others the rhythm of patience and reflection. When you do not rush to respond, when you do not react to every impulse, when you allow moments to breathe, you model a form of self-possession that becomes attractive by default. People are drawn to what they cannot control or predict easily. The unhurried nature of stillness creates an internal pull. It leaves a space for desire and longing to grow naturally. Influence emerges as a side effect of the patience you embody. It is important to distinguish between stillness and passivity. Stillness is not indifference, it is presence. It is not detachment from life, it is engagement without agitation. A person in stillness is aware, observant, and deliberate. Every movement, every word, every gesture is measured, arising from an inner clarity that performance cannot replicate. This precision amplifies influence because people unconsciously respond to the energy of someone who has mastered themselves rather than someone performing to be admired. Stillness, therefore, is magnetic because it is authentic, deliberate, and energy-centered. It allows people to experience a depth that is rare and compelling. It draws thoughts, attention, and emotional energy toward the still individual naturally. The more one cultivates this stillness, the more one becomes a reference point in the emotional and mental landscapes of others. People think about the one who does not chase them, who does not dramatize, who does not overwhelm, but who simply exists fully, calmly, and deeply. Stillness creates space for reflection, admiration, and longing. It becomes the anchor to which people unconsciously return in thought, the quiet force that shapes connection, the energy that defines memory without need for words, gestures, or constant validation. It transforms presence from something external and performative into an internal, magnetic force that shapes reality, relationships, and attention itself. And the person who understands and embodies this stillness becomes not only remembered, but continuously considered in the quiet of the mind. Attraction is often misunderstood as a fleeting spark, something that happens suddenly based on appearance, charm, or circumstance. Yet the deepest and most enduring attraction does not emerge from superficial traits. It grows from something far more subtle and powerful: emotional discipline. Emotional discipline is the ability to understand, manage, and consciously direct your own emotional energy. It is the mastery of inner states, the skill of maintaining clarity and presence even in the midst of emotional turbulence. When you cultivate this, you do not chase attention. You radiate a magnetic energy that others are naturally drawn toward. Emotional discipline builds attraction because it communicates stability, depth, and a presence that is rare in a world of reactivity. Many people confuse emotional discipline with suppression. They think that to control emotions is to ignore them, to bottle them up, or to deny their existence. In reality, emotional discipline is not suppression, it is awareness. It is the ability to feel fully without being overwhelmed, to acknowledge emotions without being enslaved by them, and to respond from a place of conscious choice rather than unconscious reaction. When a person practices this consistently, they create an internal environment that is calm, grounded, and magnetic. Others instinctively notice this, even if they cannot articulate it, because the energy of composure resonates deeply with the human psyche. One of the key ways emotional discipline builds attraction is through presence. When you regulate your emotions, your attention is no longer fragmented by inner chaos. You are able to listen fully, respond thoughtfully, and engage in a way that is unhurried and deliberate. People are drawn to someone who is fully present because presence itself is rare. In a world filled with distraction, emotional volatility, and constant reactivity, a person who remains steady becomes an anchor. That steadiness, that calm confidence becomes an invisible magnet that pulls attention, curiosity, and admiration toward them. Emotional discipline also creates boundaries without force. When you are disciplined with your emotions, you know what is acceptable for you to experience, what you allow into your energy field, and what you must release. This clarity communicates an unspoken message: you respect yourself, and others are invited to respect you as well. People are naturally attracted to those who embody self-respect because it promises safety, reliability, and consistency in interaction. Emotional discipline is therefore not just an internal skill, it shapes the external dynamics of connection and attraction in a profound way. Another powerful aspect of emotional discipline is the capacity to regulate responses to desire and attention. Most people become anxious or reactive when they are interested in someone or when they perceive uncertainty in a connection. Emotional discipline allows you to feel desire without desperation, to notice attention without clinging, and to maintain your composure regardless of external signals. This creates a subtle tension and intrigue. Others sense that you are not emotionally dependent on them for validation, and this independence intensifies attraction. Attraction thrives in the presence of measured desire and controlled energy, not in frantic pursuit or erratic expression. Emotional discipline also amplifies presence through self-awareness. When you understand your triggers, your patterns, and your emotional cycles, you are less likely to be hijacked by impulses or reactive behavior. This self-mastery shows not in arrogance but in quiet strength. People feel it intuitively. They notice that you are in control, that you are not consumed by every slight, every uncertainty, or every mood swing. This level of control communicates depth. It tells others that your inner world is stable, and stability is one of the most attractive qualities a person can embody. Furthermore, emotional discipline allows you to respond instead of react, which creates memorable and magnetic interactions. When someone behaves unpredictably or emotionally charges a situation, most people respond in kind, escalating tension or drama. But someone who is emotionally disciplined absorbs, observes, and chooses their response carefully. They do not give away their energy indiscriminately. They do not get swept into unnecessary conflicts or dramas. This composure is captivating. It creates a sense of calm authority that is impossible to ignore. People are drawn to the emotional balance of someone who is unshaken, not because they are invincible, but because they have mastered the currents within themselves. The attraction built through emotional discipline is not superficial. It is rooted in the body, the mind, and the subtle perception of energy. When you regulate your emotional state, your nervous system is calm and receptive. Your facial expressions are steady, your voice is controlled, and your gestures carry intention rather than reaction. All of this communicates safety, warmth, and reliability at a level deeper than words. People feel themselves drawn to you physically and emotionally because your presence resonates with an internal order that is rare, compelling, and memorable. Moreover, emotional discipline allows you to cultivate mystery without artificiality. When your energy is contained, when your emotions are directed rather than dispersed, you do not reveal everything at once. You allow space for curiosity, for reflection, and for longing. People think about the one who is not entirely consumed by circumstance, who is not easily swayed by every emotion, who carries a sense of internal power and calm that cannot be possessed or rushed. Emotional discipline gives rise to a natural magnetism, a pull that arises from depth, balance, and the mastery of inner experience. Emotional discipline also fosters resilience, another magnetic quality. Those who are disciplined in their emotions do not crumble under stress, disappointment, or rejection. They hold themselves steady, recover gracefully, and maintain their energy regardless of external conditions. This resilience is inherently attractive because it signals that a person is capable, reliable, and emotionally abundant. Others are unconsciously drawn to the one who has cultivated a reservoir of emotional stability, who does not need constant reassurance, and whose energy remains consistently present and compelling. In essence, emotional discipline is the art of becoming magnetic from the inside out. It transforms inner mastery into outer influence, stability into attraction, calm into desire, and balance into resonance. People are drawn to those who are centered, self-aware, and composed because they unconsciously recognize that this energy promises both safety and vitality. Emotional discipline shapes how others perceive you, how they feel around you, and ultimately how often they return to thinking about you, reflecting on you, and being drawn toward you. Because the depth and control of your emotional energy create an imprint that lingers far beyond any words, gestures, or performances. Mystery is not created through deception, performance, or artifice. It is born naturally from the depth of self-containment, from the ability to hold your own energy, emotions, and presence without spilling it unnecessarily into the world. In a society that constantly encourages oversharing, immediacy, and visible reaction, true self-containment is rare, and rarity is magnetic. When someone learns to remain centered, to maintain their own internal gravity without being compelled to explain, justify, or reveal everything, they create a field of quiet intrigue that naturally draws others in. Mystery is not a tactic, it is a reflection of depth, awareness, and inner sovereignty. Self-containment is the mastery of inner space. It is the capacity to hold your emotions without letting them dominate your outward behavior. It is the ability to process your thoughts internally rather than broadcasting them in a bid for attention or approval. It is the discipline of knowing what to share, when to remain silent, and how to move through the world without overextending your energy. This form of containment produces an energy signature that others feel instinctively. People sense the boundary of your inner world and, without being fully aware of it, are drawn to explore its presence. Mystery is a byproduct of the energy you cultivate within yourself, the energy that does not need constant external validation to exist. When you are self-contained, you cultivate emotional independence. You are not swayed by the need to be liked, by the pressure to respond immediately, or by the fear of being misunderstood. This independence manifests as calm confidence. It signals to others that you are a complete being in yourself. And there is a magnetic pull in completeness because it suggests stability, security, and the ability to navigate life without unnecessary dependence. Mystery is born in the gaps between what you allow others to see and the depth you hold internally. The less you feel compelled to explain, justify, or reveal, the more curiosity is generated naturally. Self-containment also creates a natural rhythm of tension and release. People are drawn to what they cannot fully grasp because the unknown invites exploration. When someone is fully open and predictable, there is no curiosity. But self-containment produces subtle complexity. Your reactions are measured, your emotions are intentional, your attention is selective. Others are compelled to engage, to observe, to wonder, because your energy is not fully available for consumption at every moment. Mystery thrives in this space. It is not about manipulation. It is about creating depth through the mastery of your own presence. The magnetic quality of self-containment emerges most powerfully in interactions. When you speak, your words carry weight because they are intentional rather than reactive. When you listen, your attention is complete, but your mind is not consumed with judgment or reaction. When you move through a space, you do so with a grounded presence, as if your energy is complete and does not need to be supplemented by external validation. This is why people remember those who are self-contained. They are not distracted by every minor signal. They do not impose themselves on every moment. Their energy is dense, purposeful, and quietly compelling, and mystery naturally arises in response to that depth. Self-containment is deeply connected to emotional regulation. The more you can sit with your feelings without being hijacked by them, the more grounded and magnetic you become. Emotional volatility is loud, consumptive, and often exhausting for others. Emotional containment, in contrast, conveys mastery, depth, and safety. People are drawn to what is safe yet potent. Mystery is the natural companion to this type of energy because others sense that there is more beneath the surface, more depth to be explored, yet they cannot force access. They are compelled to engage with patience, reflection, and subtle curiosity. Boundaries are another expression of self-containment that generates mystery. When you know what is yours and what is not, when you protect your time, energy, and emotional space without aggression, you signal that you are a person of integrity and self-respect. Others sense the value of your inner world and are naturally drawn to it. Boundaries do not repel, they elevate. They create contrast. They delineate the space where your energy lives and invite others to approach thoughtfully, to observe carefully, and to seek connection with awareness. Mystery flourishes in this structure because it gives depth and significance to what is shared. Self-containment also allows for intentional revelation. Mystery is not about hiding everything or creating an artificial puzzle. It is about revealing yourself in layers, in rhythms, and in ways that are intentional rather than compulsive. When your energy is held, every smile, glance, word, or gesture carries weight. People notice subtleties, nuances, and patterns, and the intrigue grows. Your presence lingers because it is not fully consumed in a single interaction. Self-containment transforms the ordinary into something memorable, elevates the mundane into the profound, and turns natural energy into magnetic influence. The cultivation of self-containment requires patience, awareness, and courage. It requires the ability to observe your impulses, understand your energy, and regulate your internal world without falling into rigidity or artificiality. It is a practice of knowing yourself deeply, of being comfortable in your own presence, and of allowing the world to encounter your energy without the need for constant explanation or justification. The mystery that emerges from self-containment is not imposed, it is earned through the depth, consistency, and authenticity of your internal state. Ultimately, mystery born from self-containment is magnetic because it communicates something that cannot be faked: depth, presence, and sovereignty. People are drawn to it because it offers a contrast to the overshared, reactive, and scattered energy that dominates most interactions. Mystery arises naturally when someone holds themselves fully, not because they are trying to intrigue, but because they are complete enough to allow curiosity to arise organically. It creates attraction, attention, and reflection as people find themselves thinking about, returning to, and lingering on the presence of someone who has mastered the art of self-containment. Boundaries are often misunderstood as barriers, as walls meant to keep others out or to protect oneself from harm. Yet, true boundaries are not about exclusion. They are about definition, clarity, and self-respect. They are the lines that delineate where your energy, your presence, and your dignity live, and they communicate something profoundly magnetic to the people around you. Boundaries shape reverence because they teach others how to approach, engage, and respond to you. They create an energy of respect that cannot be demanded or manufactured. It must be recognized through consistent self-possession and intentional living. When someone holds themselves with clarity, those around them instinctively sense the value of that energy, and reverence emerges naturally. To understand how boundaries shape reverence, one must first recognize that energy is relational. Every interaction between people is an exchange of energy, conscious or unconscious. When you allow your energy to be consumed without discernment, others take without consideration. When you hold your energy intentionally, you communicate its value silently but unmistakably. Boundaries are a declaration that your inner world is precious, that your presence is meaningful, and that your attention is not given indiscriminately. This is what creates reverence. People instinctively honor what is defined, measured, and guarded because it reflects depth, self-respect, and mastery. Boundaries are not rigid, they are fluid, adaptable, and reflective of self-awareness. They are not about aggression or defensiveness, they are about clarity and intention. When you establish boundaries in how you speak, how you respond, and how you allow others to engage with you, you create a structure that communicates dignity. Dignity draws attention. Dignity fosters respect. Dignity commands presence. And when others sense that your presence carries weight because it is held within clear limits, reverence arises. Reverence is not fear, it is recognition of value. Boundaries teach recognition. Emotional boundaries are a primary form of this influence. When you regulate what you share, how you react, and how much of yourself you give, you demonstrate emotional sovereignty. People notice when they cannot easily disrupt your emotional equilibrium or push you beyond your limits. This is magnetic because it reflects strength and self-possession. Emotional discipline combined with boundaries shows that you are aware of your value and that you will not sacrifice your stability for approval or attention. Others sense the energy of someone who respects themselves, and in response, they treat that person with care, thoughtfulness, and reverence. Physical and temporal boundaries also shape the way people approach you. When you are deliberate with your time, when you do not allow others to dominate your schedule, when you value your space and energy, you communicate that your presence is meaningful. People subconsciously register this. They notice when your time is not easily taken, when your energy is not freely available to all, and when your attention is selective rather than scattered. Boundaries of this nature cultivate respect because they signal self-respect, and reverence naturally follows respect. Those who approach with intention and care are rewarded with connection. Those who act carelessly or selfishly encounter a presence that does not bend indiscriminately. Boundaries also shape the dynamic of attraction and relational depth. When you allow people to encounter you fully, yet within the limits of your self-possession, you create tension, curiosity, and desire. People are drawn to what is rare, precious, and intentional. When your energy is not scattered or overextended, when you are deliberate in what you share and what you withhold, the quality of engagement rises. This creates a sense of reverence because others must approach thoughtfully and respectfully. They begin to understand that connection with you is not casual. It is an exchange that requires awareness, care, and consideration. Reverence is the natural response to such intentional presence. Boundaries also create the conditions for sustainable energy. When you hold clear limits, you prevent depletion and preserve the vitality necessary to show up fully in interactions. People sense this energy. They notice the vibrancy, the composure, and the strength that comes from someone who does not overextend or allow themselves to be consumed. Reverence grows because others recognize that they are in the presence of someone who is whole, capable, and centered. The boundaries you set communicate that your energy is valuable, and they teach others how to interact in a way that honors that value. The interplay between boundaries and mystery is also essential. Boundaries create the space in which curiosity and intrigue can flourish. When everything about a person is given freely, there is no need to wonder, to pause, or to reflect. But when someone holds their energy, their attention, and their presence with care, it generates interest and engagement. Mystery is not manipulation. It is the natural result of self-containment within defined limits. Reverence arises when others perceive that they are encountering someone with depth, intention, and clarity, someone whose presence commands thoughtful attention rather than casual consumption. Boundaries are also a form of teaching. They educate others about how they are allowed to engage, how they are invited to participate, and what energy they must cultivate in themselves to match yours. People respond to consistent boundaries with respect because inconsistency breeds confusion, while clarity fosters recognition. Reverence emerges from this recognition. It is not forced or demanded, but experienced. It grows as people learn that they are in the presence of someone who knows their value, protects their energy, and maintains composure without aggression. Furthermore, boundaries cultivate inner freedom, which is deeply attractive. When you do not allow external pressures, expectations, or distractions to dictate your energy, you move through life with autonomy and ease. This autonomy is magnetic because it signals that your presence is not available for manipulation or control. People respect what they cannot control because control is only meaningful when directed towards something of value. By holding your energy, time, and emotions intentionally, you create a field of reverence around yourself. People sense the sovereignty in your presence, and they respond with care, curiosity, and attention that reflects the depth of your boundaries. Ultimately, boundaries shape reverence because they communicate value, integrity, and self-possession. They teach others how to approach, how to interact, and how to honor the presence of someone who is complete in themselves. Reverence is born when clarity meets consistency, when energy is held with care, when presence is maintained with intentionality, and when interactions occur within the framework of deliberate limits. And those who encounter such presence naturally recognize its weight, its significance, and its magnetism. Words are fleeting. They can inspire, persuade, or entertain in a moment, but their impact is temporary. Spoken language, no matter how eloquent, is bound by time and circumstance. It is absorbed, interpreted, and then ultimately forgotten. Yet energy, the subtle currents that flow from intention, emotion, and presence, lingers. Energy is not limited by the constraints of memory, logic, or narrative. It exists in a space that transcends immediate comprehension, and it leaves impressions that are felt long after the details of what was said have faded. When one understands this truth, they realize that influence, attraction, and connection are not built on words alone, but on the energy one carries and transmits through every interaction. Energy is the unspoken signature of who we are. It is shaped by emotional state, physical presence, intention, and the authenticity of being. When you enter a room, people sense more than your appearance. They feel your energy. When you speak, it is not merely the words that are received, but the vibration behind them. Energy communicates what words cannot. Calmness communicates stability, warmth communicates safety, curiosity communicates openness, and stillness communicates depth. In every interaction, energy moves, and it is this movement that plants the seeds of memory. People may forget your phrasing or exact statements, but they remember the sensation, the emotional resonance, and the shift in atmosphere that your energy creates. One of the most powerful aspects of energy is its ability to imprint without intention. When you are fully present, emotionally regulated, and aware of your own internal state, the energy you emit naturally influences others. This influence is subtle but persistent. A conversation with someone who carries composure, clarity, and groundedness leaves a lasting imprint. People think about them afterward, not because of what was said, but because of how it felt to be in their presence. Energy transcends logic and rational explanation. It bypasses analysis and lodges itself in the emotional and somatic memory, the parts of the brain that hold experience in its most primal form. The difference between words and energy becomes clear in moments of high emotion. A person may deliver a moving speech, recite poetry, or confess love, yet if their energy is chaotic, inauthentic, or fragmented, the words are often forgotten. Conversely, someone who speaks minimally, or perhaps not at all, yet carries a composed and resonant energy leaves a far deeper mark. Their presence echoes in the mind and body of those they encounter. People replay the feeling of being near them, sensing the calm, confidence, or subtle intensity long after the conversation has ended. Energy outlasts narrative, because narrative is bound by linearity, but energy is multidimensional and dynamic. Energy also functions as a vessel for emotional memory. Emotions are carried through the body and nervous system, and the energy of those emotions is stored in subtle ways. When someone encounters you, the way you inhabit your body, the tone of your voice, the intention behind your gaze, and the rhythm of your movement all create a complex field of energy that interacts with theirs. Even if the words are forgotten, this interaction leaves a residue. People are reminded of you through sensations, moods, and subtle responses that originate from the energetic imprint left in their system. Energy is experiential, and experience is remembered longer than articulation. Presence amplifies energy. The more fully you inhabit your own state, emotionally, physically, and mentally, the stronger your energy becomes. A person who is grounded, calm, and intentional exerts influence without effort. Others notice it unconsciously, and it shapes their thoughts and feelings about you long after you leave. Words may provide context or explanation, but they are secondary. Energy communicates truth at a level that bypasses the intellect. It communicates authenticity, emotional stability, and depth, and it is felt as a subtle resonance that lingers in the body and mind of others. Energy can also transcend space and time. A person may interact with you briefly, yet feel your presence again later when alone, in reflection, or in a moment of quiet. This is because energy is not bound to the immediate moment. It has a lasting vibrational quality that continues to influence perception and memory. A kind gesture, a calm demeanor, a deliberate pause, or a thoughtful glance can resonate long after the interaction has ended. Words are easily replaced, paraphrased, or forgotten, but the energy you leave behind becomes a reference point for emotion, thought, and reflection. Another dimension of energy is its relational nature. It interacts with and shapes the energy of others. When you carry grounded, consistent, and intentional energy, it encourages reciprocity. People respond in kind, and the dynamic that emerges is remembered. They think about the way you made them feel, the clarity you projected, the emotional stability you embodied, and the sense of being seen, understood, or held. Energy is contagious. It leaves an echo that the mind and body return to repeatedly, creating a form of magnetic presence that words alone could never generate. Energy is also responsible for subtle attraction and influence. People are drawn not to what you say, but to how you make them feel. Emotional states, presence, and internal coherence radiate outward, shaping how others perceive and respond to you. Attraction is heightened when energy is balanced, intentional, and reflective of self-mastery. Words may initiate communication, but energy sustains attention. Words may explain, but energy evokes feeling. And feeling, carried through energy, is what lingers long after words have vanished. The cultivation of energy is therefore a practice of inner awareness, self-regulation, and intentional presence. It requires mindfulness of one's emotions, thoughts, and physical state, and the understanding that what is transmitted silently can carry far more weight than what is explicitly stated. Energy becomes the lasting imprint of your existence in another person's experience. It is remembered in the body, felt in the mind, and recalled in moments of quiet reflection. While words are fleeting, energy remains, shaping perception, memory, and emotional resonance in ways that continue to influence long after the conversation, the gesture, or the encounter has passed.